then we have some more books, obviously, because the pile is still going. Hello my loves, and thank you for joining me. It's Kirsten and we have one heck of a book haul on our hands. I counted this and I think there's about 34 books. Hang on, I've just realised I've left one. Hang on. Okay, got it. But yes, as I was saying, 34 books. Yeah, I don't know what to say. To be fair, 11 of these were gifts or I got for free in some way, so that's good. So technically I've only bought 23? Is that the way that works? Yes, maths. We're getting there. But yeah, okay, you know what a book haul is. Let's just get through it. I have to say though that I am feeling a little bit overwhelmed with my physical TBR. Like, I have a lot of books on it, so I am actually attempting to take a break from book buying for the next like few weeks because I do feel a bit overwhelmed. There are books that I want to get just to add to my collection. We're going to try and keep it to a minimum and not have this for the next book haul. These are books that I have acquired since the 1st of March. So from the 1st of March until whatever date in May this is. What date in May are we on? The 5th of May. But yes, I would like to slow down a little bit. So anyway, right, rambling. Book haul. Let's get to it. I'm going to start off, I've done something which I haven't done before, which is actually organise the books, and I've made a pile of books that were gifted and thrifted, and then I've got books that were book boxes, and then books that I picked up myself. So let me know if you like this sort of structure to it, or if you prefer just more of the free-for-all. Let's start with the books that were gifted. Okay, so first of all we have the book that I had to go pick up because I just filmed my wrap-up, and that is The Human Origins of Beatrice Porter and Other Essential Ghosts by Soraya Palmer. This came out on the 27th of April. Serpentale sent me an advance reading copy and I was so excited. This is the first ARC that I've ever received and I was ecstatic to receive it. The fact that it was about Caribbean folklore is amazing. This is more of a literary fiction book that has Caribbean folklore woven in. It's a story about stories. It's these two girls that are dealing with a very difficult home life and how they deal with that, and how stories are so essential to know who you are, who your culture is, where you come from, how intricately woven they are within our cultures. This was fantastic. I really loved it. It is heartbreaking at places, so don't check your trigger warnings. It is a very hard-hitting book, but I loved it and I loved learning about Caribbean folklore, so this was fantastic and I would highly recommend reading. Then we have a book that was gifted to me by Naomi, so thank you again Naomi. This is Finley Donovan is Killing It by Ellie Cosmano, and oh my god, this is one of my favourite books of the year. I loved this one. Tabbed to high heaven. I loved this. It was absolutely fantastic. We are following Finley Donovan and she is a struggling writer. She's also going through a divorce with a douchebag for a husband, and she is just honestly overwhelmed and struggling. And then one day she's talking to her editor and they're talking about the fact that she writes these murder mystery love story things, and she's saying how she feels like she needs to come up with a new way of doing things, that she's feeling really uninspired, that everything's the same, and that the editor's like, look, just kill the person, like it doesn't matter, just get them dead, do the thing. They're overheard with this conversation of someone listening in and gets the wrong end of the stick, thinking that Finley Donovan is a hit woman, and she gets left a note saying $50,000 and a person's name, and things go from there. This book was absolutely freaking hilarious. I loved it. It was to the point where I enjoyed it so much I bought my mum a copy for Mother's Day, and I really am looking forward to her reading it and seeing how she feels. I want to get another copy so I can give one to my friend because I think she would really like it. It was just hilarious. I thought it was such a fantastic book to read. Highly recommend. And this is definitely a book that I know that if I'm feeling like I'm having a really crap day, I'm going to pick this up because I know I'm going to be laughing at the end of it. It was such a hilarious book. It's the first time that I've ever used a tab for things that made me laugh, and I ran out of the tabs. That's how much I enjoyed it. So thank you so much, Naomi. This was fantastic. Then a colleague at work gifted me Tom Reed Wilson's On the Tip of My Tongue, The Perfect Word for Every Life Moment. This is a non-fiction book about words. Also, those end pages are freaking gorgeous. I loved them. But yes, I'm very happy with this. This was as a leaving gift because I changed the place that I'm working at. Still the same job, just different place. This was so good. It was so lovely of her to do that. I really am so excited to dip in and out of this one and just read different words. So yeah, this is kind of like a funny one, but also looks at different things and how we use words to establish those things, from what I can tell. But yeah, very good, very pleased. I then have 3 Stephen King books, which were all gifted to me from a friend at work. He loves Stephen King, absolutely loves it, recommends them all the time. And when I said that I'd never read any Stephen King, well, that's now being remedied. So these are books that he just had extra copies of, and we have Stephen King's first book, which is Carrie, and these are all books that I do actually want to get around to reading soon, but I'm also a wimp and I have to make sure that I'm not reading them too late at night, otherwise, knowing me, I could have nightmares. But yes, we have his first book, which is Carrie. We have the first book in his fantasy series, I believe, which is The Gunslinger, which is the first book in the Dark Tower series, and then we have a short story collection, because I found out that I like short stories, and that's Just After Sunset. So I'm very excited to try reading Stephen King. I've not read any of his books. I've watched one film, which was Misery, and that was creepy. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see. I'm very excited to start my Stephen King journey, and yeah, I do want to read one of these soon, but as I say, I'm a bit of a wuss. I'm also thinking it'd be really good to keep for like October time, because, you know, Halloween and stuff. I have so many books that I'm keeping for October time, it's ridiculous. Looking forward to starting the Stephen King journey and just seeing if I get on with his writing, so thank you so much for those. And then my dad got me Love Will Tear Us Apart by C.K. McDonald. He was the one that introduced me to his writing, and I really enjoyed it. The first book is Stranger Times, and then this is the third book, the most recent one, and he got me a signed copy, and it was hilarious because he was like, try and find the signature because it is all the way down here. It was really funny. I really loved the Stranger Times. Again, it's another really funny book, but this time, instead of being more contemporary like Finlay Donovan, this one is more fantasy based. So we're following the Stranger Times, which is a newspaper that reports on the weird and wonderful things, except they're real. People don't obviously believe that. And in the first one, you're dealing with some different supernatural characters. I don't want to give it away. It's just a fun, ridiculous time, and it's also the kind of humour that I really like, where it's just on the edge of being too far, and I think it was just great. I really enjoyed it. I do want to read the second book and then carry on with this one. Again, I'm saving those for times when I'm feeling really down, because I know that they make me laugh, but I also feel like maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should just laugh even when I'm feeling happy, because, you know, why not? News like Flash, which is funny because this is based on a news report. Anyway, very happy with this, very excited. I feel like potentially this could have some like Dorian vibes because of the mirror. Could be completely wrong. One thing I do love about these covers though is that there are tiny little illustrations which once you've read the book, you know how they all link in, so I'm always really intrigued, and I had a lot of fun reading the first book and then going back and looking at the cover and seeing the different things that linked in. But would really recommend this if you enjoy a funny book with a bit of fantasy. It's a good time. I really enjoyed it. Okay, so those were all the gifts. Then I had some points to use up. So I got myself War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy, and oh good god, do I regret saying that I'm going to read it this year. But at the same time, I've heard nothing but good reviews about this book. It's huge. It's intimidating, but I have heard nothing but good things. So I am very intrigued. I really want to get to it. I'm thinking to tackle this in winter time when I'm cold and all I want to do is wrap up with a book, and I think a big heavy tome during winter is going to be really good. I do want to annotate it. This is going to probably take me a couple months to read. I'm very intrigued and I would love to get this finished by the end of the year. Couldn't tell you what this one is about. I know Leo Tolstoy uses this one to look into war and peace, the effects on it, the fact that it's a bit of a pantomime. I know that there's a lot of theatre concepts in this book and how things are spoken about and how things are laid out, which I think is going to be really interesting to learn and read as I go on. I also know he has a penchant for repeating himself and for drawing things out. I read Anna Karenina by him, and to be honest, part of me thinks, I've mentioned this before already, that I should just reread Anna Karenina, because I did like that book, but I think now I would have more of an appreciation. I think books of this size I need to read twice, and it's on the second time that I read it that I love it. However, I'm not doing the sensible thing. I'm just going to go in and read this one, and hoping that I connect with it a bit more, because now I know his writing style. I know what to expect from reading Anna Karenina. I think it's going to be great, and I love this edition. I have Anna Karenina in the same edition, and I think they're fantastic. Intimidated, terrified, but we're gonna do it. Then I have a couple of books that I got for free at a little free library. And we have The Wicked King by Holly Black. I've already read this book. I read it earlier this year as an ebook, and I do want to get physical copies. So when I saw the second book and it being in really good condition, of course I was going to get it. I really enjoyed this series. This is a YA fantasy series that focuses on Fae. We're looking at a human girl who lives in the Fae world and the things that she's got to do to try and survive. It's more of a political fantasy. A lot of people focus on the fact that it's an enemies to lovers romance, but it is the slowest slow burn I've ever encountered, and I loved it for that. But I would definitely say it's more political rather than anything else. I had so much fun with it. I'm glad I finally read it. It was definitely a book I put off for years because I thought, it's not going to be something I'm interested in, but it was fantastic. Love it. Cannot wait to reread it. I want to get all the books and annotate it and have a good time with it. I loved it. I really, really did. And then the other book I got from the free library at work was Hare House by Sally Hinchcliffe. And this is a book that when it first came out I was interested in and then just kind of lost interest. It's more of like a spooky, atmospheric, haunted house vibe. I have heard a few people telling me that it's like got mixed reviews and stuff, but I'm always pleased to give one a go, and I like having a book like this on my TBR. Gothic atmospheric books are probably some of my absolute favourites to read when it starts getting into autumn winter time. Yes, of course I had to pick this one up. Then we have 3 books that I have thrifted. So I mean the last 2 were thrifted but they were free. Actually this one was also free, I forgot. This one again was at another library swap thing. This one is at my local Tesco's, and I picked up Young Mungo by Douglas Stewart. Again, I've heard nothing but good things. This is more of a contemporary, I believe. We're following these 2 men that are dealing with the religious wars that are going on within Glasgow. You have Protestants and Catholics, and they're caught between 2 housing estates in Glasgow with the divides and the territory battles and things. But we have these 2 young men who end up falling in love, which obviously being gay and dealing with those sort of territorial religious wars, that's a boiling pot for a mess. I'm expecting this to be heartbreaking, and I will be picking this book up when I'm ready to have that happen. But I am really intrigued and I cannot wait to read this one. I actually think someone that I used to work with would really like this one because he likes very depressing books. So maybe I'll recommend this to him once I've finished reading this one. Pretty sure you know who you are if you're watching because you recommended to me Shuggy Bane and things like that. I think Young Mungo you may like. But then yes, the 2 books that I picked up thrifted. We have M.R. James' Cast in the Runes and Other Ghost Stories, and I was really intrigued to find this one in a charity shop, especially in the classic collection that I'm collecting. I like 2 very particular types of classics, Oxford World Classics and English Library. So whenever I see them in a charity shop and I'm intrigued, I pick them up. This one is, as we know, Ghost Stories. It's a gothic classic. I really love my gothic classics, hence why I got it. I haven't heard of M.R. James, haven't read any of his work before. Very intrigued to see what this one is going to be about. Apparently M.R. James is a first-class writer of supernatural fiction, and the collected edition of his stories has never been out of print. His subject is the leisurely, late Victorian middle-class world of country houses, seaside inns, out-of-the-way railway stations and cathedral closes, where gentlemen of independent means and antiquarian tastes suddenly find themselves confronted by terrifying agents of supernatural malice. Oh my god, there's 21 stories. 21 stories in this tiny little thing. Wow, that's impressive. But yeah, so that's going to be good and fun to read. Always like a short story collection. And then, as I said, another classic that I found in the collections that I like to collect. This is A Handful of Dust by Evelyn Waugh. This is an author that I have heard spoken of quite a few times, and so I decided to pick it up. I mean, it's in the edition that I like, and I was intrigued. This one is a bitterly funny novel of betrayal, selfishness that combines dazzling comedy with savage satire, and that is what intrigued me because I love that combination in classic. And this one we also have a gothic monstrosity of a home. So yeah, I'm really intrigued. I think it's going to be fantastic. I love the covers of these. I'm very pleased to actually be reading some of her books because she's written a lot. If I like her writing, I'm intrigued to pick up other books. So if you have any other by this author that you think I would really enjoy, then please let me know. I've seen a lot of her books around, but I want to at least try one of her books before I buy more. That's the only thing with classics. I have so many classics on my TBR because I want to read them all, but I also have to be in the mood to read classics, so I end up having them sit on my TBR for absolutely ages, but I still desperately want to read them. It's very rare that I would unhaul a classic book that I haven't read. Moving on, we have all the books that I've purchased either in a sale or pretty much full price, but we'll start off with the book boxes. I have the Locked Library book box subscription, which I pay for, and I think it's been worth it. I've only read one of the books so far, but I really enjoyed it. For March, we had The Valkyrie, and this is by Katie Hartfield. Very intrigued. This is Norse mythology. It's also following a bit of a love story, and it's absolutely stunning. It is such a beautiful book. You also get a ribbon bookmark with every one. These are unique designs, so like the dust jacket's been changed, normally like colorways changed. You get unique sprayed edges and also a unique design under the dust jacket. It works out that these books I pay for the 3-month subscription, so it works out that these books are £20 each. I think that's really worth it because of all the detailing that I get extra, and to be honest, these normally retail as a minimum of £16, so paying £4 extra for an exclusive edition doesn't bother me, and sometimes hardbacks can go for a lot more. You also get a letter from the author as well, which I always find really, like in the last book I read that before I read the rest of it, which was The Thorns Remain. That was a really good book and I loved reading the letter because you learnt some of the inspiration and things behind it. Katie Hartfield is someone that has actually written other books, so I'm very excited to see if I like it, like the writing style, and then I can pick up other books. And then we have April's pick, and if you saw the vlog where I unboxed this, oh my god, so excited. This is The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. Mark Lawrence is quite a big fantasy author. He's written a lot of books. I've read his Red Sister trilogy, really enjoyed that. He is a bit of a hit or miss author. I've tried some of his other books, didn't quite connect. Hoping that this is one that I really like. This was a book I was debating picking up when it was released. We actually got this as an early copy because it's not released until May, and look, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. I love everything about this. It's absolutely stunning, and everything is taking place in a library, so that's going to be fantastic. I'm really excited to read this one. I'm predicting this could be a 5-star read. I may do a video of creating another one where I've done one before where I read 3 books that I think were going to be 5 stars to see if they are 5 stars, and I think I might do another one and have this one as part of it. But yes, very, very excited, happy with that, loved that coming in. That kind of solidified that yes, I'm going to be a part of this book box for the next 3 months. We're going to see what May, June and July are like and go from there. But yeah, very excited. Then we have some more books, obviously, because the pile is still going. We have Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. This is a book I picked up because of all the hype. Loads of people have been reading it. Loads of people seem to really love it. It's one that I'm hoping to buddy read with Christina once she gets her copy from the library. And it's also one that my mum's going to read because I think she would really like it. I think this is going to be a good one. I'm intrigued. We're following a chemist. Unfortunately, her all-male team in the Hastings Research Institute doesn't take a good view on equality when it comes to women in science. She's forced to resign and takes up being a host of a cooking show, and she starts making this change across the nation. It's set in the 1960s. I love the cover because it really gives off that vibe as well. Really intrigued. I think it's going to be a good time. Lots of people seem to be enjoying this one, and I'm intrigued to see what my mum thinks and also what me and Christina think when we get round to buddy reading this one. I also picked up The Moving Finger by Agatha Christie to continue on with my Miss Marple series. This is the next book that I've got to pick up apart from a short story collection, which I think I'm going to do first, and then I'm going to continue on. I was hoping to read at least one Miss Marple book a month, but that's not happened. I am enjoying these. I love a cozy mystery, and that's what this one is about. I don't know what this one is about. I don't want to know. I want to go into it blind, but I love this edition. These are the editions that I'm collecting, and I will be getting them slowly. I love these books. They're just so much fun. Like, you cannot go wrong with a cozy mystery. We then have The Castle of Orantaro. This is by Horace Walpole. This is a book that I've had on my TBR to get for ages. This one is the first supernatural English novel and one of the most influential works of Gothic fiction, and that is why I wanted to get it. I have this thing where I like to read all the books that influence other books. It's something that I really like to do. If I find out that a book has been inspired by another book, I'm going to read that book that inspired it. It's just something I like to do. I love seeing the influences. It's just something that I absolutely love. And so this is part of that. I really wanted to read this in August. No, what am I talking about? October. For Halloween. I had plans to read this for my bi-monthly readathon. However, this came up in my May TBR game, so instead I'm going to read it in May, and I might actually read it on my birthday. So you may have already seen a review of this book by the time this video goes up, but I do, as we know, as I've been saying, I love a Gothic classic, and so I'm really intrigued. This one's actually a really short one. It's less than like 100 pages. It's 112 pages. No, that's the appendix. It's 105 pages. That's not going to take me long to read, so I might read this one on my birthday or close to my birthday, because I think it's going to be a really good read. I have high hopes for that book, very high hopes. And then we have a non-fiction book which I have been trying to get my hands on ever since it first came out, and that is Being Lolita by Alison Wood. This is a memoir, and a memoir that I, as I said, been trying to get my hands on for ages, and I could never find it until this one time I went into Waterstones and it was there, and I was like, that's it, I'm picking it up and getting it now because I've never seen this. This is going to be an absolutely heartbreaking tale. It's all about this English professor. Is she a professor or is she just a teacher? She is a professor. When she was younger, was groomed by an English teacher and was given Lolita and told that it's a beautiful epic love story. And it's going to be heartbreaking because if you've read Lolita, I think you can tell where that's going to go. I've read a couple of books that kind of tackle this subject. I've read My Dark Vanessa, which is kind of a fiction version, I want to say, of this, but it's very similar, of an adult that's dealing with what she went through with an English teacher giving her Lolita to read. I then read Lolita after reading My Dark Vanessa because it's referenced so much, and it's so good. That's a hard read. I'm really intrigued to read this one, and it's going to be gut-wrenching, but I think it's going to be a powerful read. It's tackling a dark subject, but I think it's going to be a book that I will never not think about. Then we have a book that I got in a sale, which is The Stolen Heir by Holly Black. This is kind of continuing on from the Folk of the Air trilogy. You have that trilogy, it's all finished, and then this is kind of like a spin-off. We're continuing on with Carden, who was Jude's brother, the human girl that went to Fairy. Her brother. Continuing on. I'm very excited. I can't wait. Think it's going to be fantastic. I've been wanting to read this one for ages as well. Keep putting it off because this is a new release. The second book I don't think is going to be out any earlier than next year. I don't know if it's going to be out after that. I'm not sure. I really am looking forward to reading this one. I have heard mixed things about this one, but I'm excited to get back into that world and just exploring it, and I think it's going to be a grand time. So of course when I saw this half price, I was going to get it. I was going to wait until paperback because that's what the rest of the Folk of the Air trilogy, when I get them, they'll all be in paperback, but half price, can't go wrong. I then picked up a book I've already read, and that's Vita Nostra by Marina and Sergei Dashchenko. This is translated from Russian, but authors are Ukrainian. This I love. This is a book that I listened to on audiobook about 2 years ago now, and I've not stopped thinking about. And when I first listened to it, I didn't think I liked it, but it's not left my mind. So clearly it made an impact, and I definitely want to reread this one. We've also got a second book coming out. I didn't realise it was a series, but it is. So I want to reread this and then get that book when it's published. We're following Sasha, and she gets invited into this very elite, prestigious school, and things get weird. This is a really weird dark academia book. It's a subsection of dark academia that I love. I thought it was great, but it is weird. Really weird. Really weird, but really good. And then talking about how much I really liked Finlay Donovan's Killing It, I picked up Finlay Donovan Knocks Them Dead. This is the second book. There is a third book as well, so I will be getting that when that's available. If you can hear scratching, that is the dog. But yeah, we've already spoken about the first book. This is the second book continuing on from there. I think it's going to be a good fun time. This stack of books look like it's going to fall. Then we have Clytemnestra by Constanza Cassidy. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. And this is a Greek myth retelling book that I wanted to get just because it was a Greek myth retelling, but I knew I wasn't going to read it straight away, so I wasn't going to get it straight away. But then I saw these edges and they are stunning. This is an absolutely stunning edition. It is this end pages just continued onto the edges, and I think it's gorgeous. And this is a very sad tale. This is Clytemnestra's tale. She is the sister of Helen, and it's heartbreaking and gut-wrenching, and I have read several retellings of Clytemnestra at this point, but I'm always on the lookout for more. I think it's a really interesting tale, and I love the way that different authors take her tale, interpret it in different ways, and interpret her as a character in different ways. So I'm really intrigued to see what direction this author's going to take with this tale and see whether I enjoy it or not. Like I said, I wasn't going to get it straight away because I'm trying to do this thing where I don't buy books unless I'm going to be reading them soon, unless I'm feeling really down, in which case I'll pick up a book because I know it makes me happy. So I wasn't going to, but this is a very beautiful edition, and I knew if I'd left that behind I would have regretted it, so I didn't. And I'm very pleased I didn't. We then have The Collector, and this is by John Fowles, and this is a book that I picked up on sale actually. Found this little bookshop in Angel in Islington, and this was £5. They had a collection of different vintage books for £5, and I was so excited when I saw this one. This is a book that I've been on the lookout for ever since I saw a TikTok video about it a few months ago. Again, another dark and disturbing book, but they are the ones that tend to stick with me more. Don't know what that says about me. But this is, we're following Frederick, who collects butterflies and takes photographs, but then he becomes obsessed with Miranda, and it goes from there. It's a dark book, But I love this cover. I love this cover. It's so freaking fantastic. So when I saw this edition of it and it was for sale, I was like, yes, of course, I'm having it. I'm bringing it home. I wanted it. The other editions that are on sale at the minute, they're not as nice as this. This is good. But yes, another dark book to add to my collection of dark and disturbing books. Then we have L'Adore by Mary Shelley, and this was one that I've never seen before. I came across it in Waterstones at the same time as I found Being Lolita. It was a good trip to Waterstones. It was a good day. And this, I was intrigued by the cover, and then I saw it was by Mary Shelley, the Mary Shelley that wrote Frankenstein. And I didn't even know that she wrote this book. It's actually a forgotten classic. They're doing this as a rediscovered classic. It was first published as The Beautiful Widow. This one is her most Jane Austen-like novel, which intrigues me because I loved Jane Austen. So yeah, you can 100% guarantee I'm going to be reading this soon. I think because of the Jane Austen connection, I'm kind of thinking it'll be a really good summer read. So sneak peek into my summer TBR, because this is definitely going to be on it. I'm really intrigued. Can't wait to give this one a try, and I love the fact that it's by Mary Shelley. Like, yes. Okay, trying to speed this up because my camera battery is running out. I don't know what's happened to the batteries. They don't seem to last as long. Anyway, we have The Secrets of Heartwood Hall by Katie Lumsden. Katie Lumsden is actually a great YouTuber. I will have her channel linked below. She's someone that I discovered because of our mutual love of classics. We both love the Bronte sisters. Katie is someone that I go to when I'm really wanting recommendations of different classics, different gothic literature, and this is her first novel. So of course I had to pick it up. I'm so intrigued. It looks absolutely gorgeous, and there's lots of influence from the Bronte sisters in this, so I'm very intrigued. And this is a Victorian Gothic novel, so of course I am going to be reading this one. I'm very much looking forward to it. I would like to get to this soon. I think it's going to be fantastic. As I've already mentioned in this video many times, Gothic literature is one of my favourite things to read, so I have high hopes. I may actually put this in with the 5-star? God, I can't talk today. 5-star predictions video, because I think this one's going to be a 5-star. So maybe we'll put that in the same one as the Mark Lawrence book. There we go. We're making that TBR for this video already. Okay, then we have House of Good Bones. No, A House with Good Bones, and that's by T. Kingfisher. I picked this one because it was on sale. Forbidden Planet had this one for like £4 off. I love T. Kingfisher books. I say that with having read one of them, which was Nettle and Bone, but I really loved it. So I knew that I wanted to get this one. However, I was going to wait because I knew I wasn't going to get to it anytime soon, but it was on sale. And I think I'd be silly to miss up a chance of it being on sale when I know I'm going to get this book eventually. So decided to get it. Very intrigued. It's a gothic book dealing with a kind of haunted house, and this edition is beautiful with the lovely end pages and the foiling. Very happy that I got this edition. I think it's beautiful. We're following a main character, Samantha, and she goes back to her family home but finds things really weird and bones, and it's gonna be interesting. I know I've only been given very general overviews of these books, but there are quite a few to get through, and I don't want this video being ridiculously long, and I haven't read them, so I don't have you to give you more thoughts other than the fact that I'm excited to read them and why I am. But also I do like going into my books partially blind. I get more from the reading experience, so I'm sorry if this is not as informative as you would have liked, but it's the way I prefer going into my books. Moving on, we have Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers, and this is by Jessie Suchano. This is a cozy murder mystery. I'm very excited to get to it. Do I wish I'd got the US edition? Yes, of course, but this book was like £3, so I'm not going to complain. And yeah, I think this one is just going to be hilarious. We have our main character, Vera Wong. She owns a tea shop, and then she discovers one day to come downstairs that there is this dead body in the middle of her floor. But she thinks that the police aren't going to do as good a job as she could do, so she takes what this dead man was holding, sets about trying to solve it on her own, and I think it's going to be a hilarious time. I feel like with murder mysteries you can't know much more than that going into it, because otherwise you just know the whole point of it being a murder mystery, like you're not meant to know. Does that make sense? Anyway, then we have my trip to the US, and I had such a good time there. Went to Barnes & Noble and picked up a few different books, one of them being The Diviners by Libba Bray. This is a book that I've already read. I've already read the whole series, and I loved this series. I loved the first book. I thought it was fantastic. I loaned the first book to my sister. When I saw it in the US bookshop and it was the covers that I have been collecting, I went and got it, because this edition is so ridiculously hard to find in the UK because they just don't do this print. To find the edition that I had, it was second hand, so I'm very happy that I have a brand new copy. Very excited. Love this series. It's an occult mystery vibe. We have different main characters that we're following. Our main character is Evie. She's sent to her uncle for being unruly. This is set in the 1920s in New York City, which was great that I picked it up while I was in New York, so I thought that worked really well. So she's sent there to be with her uncle to learn to be how a woman and stuff. It was a terrible idea, absolutely terrible, because her uncle is eccentric, and she ends up getting caught up in this series of occult murders that are happening because she has this skill where she's able to read an object and see things that have happened, and so she uses it to try and solve this mystery, and things get dark. And as the series goes on, it gets darker, and it's fantastic. I really enjoyed it. Really, really good. Really pleased that I've got a copy again, because this is just so good. So happy with it. I also picked up Carmilla. This is by Sheridan Le Fanu. I've already read this. However, this is the edited edition by Carmen Maria Machado. This is a book that I'm very intrigued to read. First of all, it's an illustrated edition, so hello, beautiful. I love illustrations. But the editions that Carmen did is all done in footnotes. And I think that's really intriguing because she's actually added to the story, giving you more context. I think it's going to be a really interesting one to read. I really liked the original of this, so I'm very intrigued to see how this edited edition is going to hold up. Carmilla is a vampire story that came out before Dracula. It's why Camilla is referred to as the Queen of Vampires, because it is the female vampire. I love this book so much. I cannot wait to read those editions and see how it's going to go. So yes, this has been a book that I've been after for a little while now, and it just looks so gorgeous and I cannot wait. I then picked up The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I have already read this. I have the UK hardback. However, I really wanted to get a paperback so I can annotate in it. Then I couldn't be bothered to get the UK paperback because it was just the same design, just in white. And then I saw this beauty, and I love it. I love the simplicity of it all, the black, the gold, everything. In this one, we are following Addie LaRue, and she has made a deal with basically the devil that she doesn't have to get married. She doesn't want to get married. It starts off as very far in the past. However, the side effect to that is that she will live forever, but nobody's ever going to remember her. The minute she walks out of a room, nobody can remember that she even exists. And so it's a very lonely time. You're really exploring loneliness and what it does to a person. Is it really living if no one really remembers you? And it's just a beautiful, heartbreaking story. One of my absolute favourites. Cannot wait to reread this. Loved it. And I'm so pleased I have this edition. And look at the flop. It's going to be a great one to annotate. Absolutely amazing. And then the last 3 books is a trilogy that I went out with the intention of looking for when I went to New York. The Traitor Barrow Cormorant series. I have been obsessed with this series by Seth Dickinson before I even started reading it. I was hearing Reagan talk about it over at Peruse Project, and she kept talking about this series, and I just became obsessed, and I loved these covers, but I could never find it anywhere. And then I realised that's because the UK title is just The Traitor, and it's a completely different cover as well. This is an older political fantasy series, and I've started the first one, but I am going to reread it and what I've read and then continue on with this edition because I want to annotate. And it is a political series about this empire that goes around taking control of different countries, the way they do it, the way that they decide what is morally acceptable, the way that they eradicate people's pasts and cultures to fit what they want. It's very brutal, very dark, and it's raw. It doesn't hold back, so do check your trigger warnings before going into it. From reading the first 128 pages, I knew that this was going to be a series that I absolutely loved, so when I went to New York and found the whole trilogy, I of course had to get it. So we do have The Traitor Barrow Cormorant, and we also have The Monster Barrow Cormorant and The Tyrant Barrow Cormorant. So I'm very excited. I know it's a dark book series. It's going to get very dark. It's going to be tackling a lot of difficult subjects, but I'm very, very intrigued and so pleased that I have all 3. But that is it. We are at the end. Thank God, because there are so many books everywhere. I need to do so much tidying up. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know if you've read any of these books, if you're interested in any of these books, all those things. If you have made it this far, then let's put a book stack emoji, because I have book stacks everywhere around me right now. And thank you so much for watching. So if you have enjoyed this video, please do give it that thumbs up, subscribe and comment. Those 3 things are so important to helping this channel grow. My social media links, anyone I've mentioned, as always, will be linked below, and I will of course catch you in the very next video.